Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we will read a story about a woman had a male friend who unfortunately got himself married to a bridezilla that obsessed with her Instagram life, which led their relationship to ruin. This is a two-part story, so be sure to like and subscribe for part 2. Let's get started. A longtime friend Josh was an awesome guy dating an awesome girl. They break up due to her not wanting kids, but he does. During a year, Josh had many rebound dates and ended up with the most obnoxious wannabe influencer blogger, Janice. After a while, he proposes to her. We hadn't met Janice yet, but we were all very happy for Josh. He showed us her photos, and there was an age gap, but not inappropriately so, with him being late 30s and her being 30. She looked gorgeous, and her bio info sounded like they would make a great match. Her pictures were filled with her doing fun activities, and she was tall, blondish, and quite pretty. But when we met Janice, that was when I learned about filters, LOL, and the lengths that some people go to convey a life they don't actually live on their dating bios. Janice actually photoshopped herself into these scenic pics, bought expensive clothes to pose in, then returned them, straight up stole other people's photos, etc. Like I just said, Janice was, and still is, I just checked her Instagram this morning, a failing wannabe Instagram influencer/model. She has fewer than 5,000 followers, and I'm pretty certain a lot of them are bots or bot followers. Her content is sad and she comes off like a catty, vapid 14-year-old. It's pathetic. She has also created a mommy blog, and that's pretty super cringe too. I guess she's also trying to claim she's a professional photographer to boot. All I can say about that is LO mother effing L. Anyways, she was superficially nice, and her method of making conversation was to make fun of people's cars, clothes, purses, and watches, etc. She even made fun of us for having student loan debt. The B didn't even have a degree or a job. We tried to excuse that as her being insecure at meeting new people. Regardless, we all made the effort to be kind and to get to know her, but it became clear that Janice was just not into anything but herself, or talking crap about others. They met via online dating, but she insists that they tell everyone that they met through mutual friends. I don't know why this was such a thing for her. She had a total meltdown when she found out we knew the truth. Josh was always the laid-back, amenable type, but with her, they always fought in front of people and in public. She picked fights over the most trivial things, and it was embarrassing. I've never known a couple that fought so much in front of others. It made for very unfortunate times when we were together for events. Anyways, none of us could understand what the fuck Josh saw in her. We chalked it up to magic vagina. He said it was because he really wanted to settle down. Josh's personality slowly changed as the months went on. His work was suffering. A few of us worked together. He dropped out of all the activities he enjoyed. He started gaining a lot of weight, drinking more, took less care of his appearance and home, and just all around seemed sad. So basically, Janice moved into his house within the first month of dating and started isolating him from his friends and family. The few times she would allow him to work late or hang out with others, she always fabricated an emergency that required him to leave ASAP. He actually looked like he was on the road to call it quits with her, but one night about a year into dating, he told us she was pregnant. We all got the feeling that she could tell he was preparing to break up with her, and that's what pushed her into this Hail Mary claim that she was pregnant. We were shocked. A couple of the guys took him aside to talk to him, told him he didn't have to marry her. Josh was pretty silent and said he had to do the right thing, and so the wedding happens. Fun fact, she tried to get away with not inviting any of Josh's friends to the wedding, which explains how we were treated at the wedding. Update 1. Anyways, now it's time to move on to part 2, the wedding. We were all coming from literally all over the world for Josh's wedding. On the invites, the venue and the place where we were all booked to stay was listed as a hotel out in the middle of nowhere. The closest airport was 2 hours away. We all arrive at the hotel, about 150 guests, only to be surprised by shuttle buses. Turns out the hotel isn't the venue. The actual venue is a farm even farther out in the middle of nowhere that required a 30 to 45-minute shuttle ride. Many of us said we would prefer to drive ourselves and were told we are not allowed to, as the roads are too narrow and there is no parking available at the venue. We are assured that the shuttles will take us back anytime we want to leave. This turns out to be a lie. Also, the farm had ample space for parking, and the roads were not narrow at all getting there. I think they just wanted to ensure attendance, as the bride was Instagramming her wedding live and wanted to make sure there was always going to be a crowd for the photos. It was a record hot summer, and we are left waiting outdoors for the ceremony with no refreshments and little shade for almost 2 hours. Finally, after enough complaining, Janice's family begrudgingly allowed caterers to serve us water while the wedding parties and the immediate families were all in the air-conditioned farmhouse that no guests were allowed in, getting ready for the ceremony. Every so often, someone from the families or wedding party would come out with a glass of champagne or canapes to chat with us lowly guests and then skitter back off to the farmhouse when they got too hot or wanted more refreshments. It was the most BS thing I've ever experienced at a wedding. It was pretty clear that anyone outside the family or wedding party was considered second-class guests. We were basically moving scenery for them. The ceremony is finally set to start. We are ushered to the seats. Not enough seats for everyone. About a quarter of us guests are left standing. Luckily, the ceremony is under an hour. But we then are left to stand out in the heat again, with very little shaded area for a cocktail-absent cocktail hour, while the wedding party and families are having photos taken. All of us are sweating our butts off in black tie wear, and all the ladies' makeup is melting off, and our hair is all ruined. Finally, we are all allowed into the venue, which is a giant barn. It looks super weird having a string ensemble, harpist for the ceremony, singer and DJ with crystal decorations and flowers covering everything in a freaking barn. The barn is decked out like the plaza, basically. We are choked out on the overwhelming stink of lilies. The centerpieces were so large you couldn't see the people across the table. We were all seated for the meal, but just as everyone gets their meal placed in front of them, the father of the groom gets everyone's attention to give a speech and specifically asks everyone to put down our forks and stop eating. The speech he gives is at least 40 minutes long. How do I know it was that long? I started timing it after it droned on for a long time already. It was the most rambling, incoherent speech that did not mention the bride or groom at all, and only talked about World War II, his ancestors, Wall Street, the Jews, and other random politics. To wrap up the speech, he asked us to donate to his political party. I've been texting a friend who also attended, and he said there were actually people from that political party there trying to harangue people for donations. When he finally finished, the entire room was silent in shock. I guess no one else wanted to do speeches after that, so we all awkwardly started eating our cold meals. Janice was insistent on having her little teacup chihuahua at the wedding, a dog she begged for yet never took care of, to the point where she just openly allowed the dog to pee and crap all over inside their house because she was too lazy to walk him. It was a common complaint from Josh, especially being that she didn't work or go to school. She got the dog solely in an attempt to garner attention on her Instagram. She admitted this and isn't embarrassed by this at all. After she got the photo she wanted with the dog, she couldn't be bothered anymore with him, so she tied the dog up underneath her table without food or water and forgot about him. He was discovered at the end of the evening by one of the guests. Janice also complained about people not dancing and got on the mic and berated those of us too tired and fed up to fill the dance floor. The bee had the audacity to complain that we didn't look picture perfect after leaving us in the heat for most of the wedding. She also complained about anyone who had visible tattoos or clothing that she didn't deem fancy enough. She also, throughout the night, yelled at groups of us to direct us where to stand so we could be a background for the photos she wanted to have taken. The mother of the bride gets absolutely wasted. She wore what basically looked like a wedding dress to the ceremony, a long mermaid cut of white lace, and then changed into a tight black rhinestone-embellished mini dress for the reception. The dress was so short that even the slightest bend forward would flash her bare butt at you. I don't know if she was commando or if she was wearing a thong. It basically looked like she was wearing a too tight shirt and she forgot to put on her trousers. Didn't help that she was also about 100 pounds overweight. The mother of the bride turns into one of those emotional crying drunks. She was all over the dance floor, cry dancing after she threw up next to the DJ booth. The mother of the groom had to take her away to the farmhouse for a while to get her to compose herself. At this point, it's about midnight, and most of the guests have had enough and wanted to get back to the hotel to shower and sleep. So a group of us go to the shuttle buses, only to be told they're only going to make one trip, and that was scheduled at 2 a.m. Mind you, this wedding has been going on since 5 p.m. It was the worst wedding I've been to. There are other things that happened involving Janice and her whole awfulness. She was the one that thought it was so funny to have the beat up groom cake topper and couldn't stop pointing it out and telling everyone how true it was. It wasn't even on the groom's cake. It was on top of this gorgeous, five-tiered cake that none of the guests were allowed to eat, as apparently it was just for the families. The guests were given what looked like grocery store cupcakes, and that's the end of part one of this story. What do you guys think about the story so far? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys on the next video.